After the Israelites had journeyed in the desert for a long time, they were finally before the land that God had promised them. The land was to flow with milk and honey, but the first thing that they had to do was to scout the area to know what the land was like. God instructed Moses to send some men to scout the land, specifically asking him to pick 12 spies who represented the 12 tribes of Israel. Each was to be a leader from each tribe of Israel. Numbers chapter 13 verses 4 to 15 stated their names and their tribes. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua son of Zaccur; from the tribe of Simeon, Shaphat son of Hori; from the tribe of Judah, Caleb son of Jephunneh; from the tribe of Issachar, Igal son of Joseph; from the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea son of Nun; from the tribe of Benjamin, Palti son of Raphu; from the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel son of Sodi; from the tribe of Manasseh, a tribe of Joseph, Gadi son of Suzi; from the tribe of Dan, Amiel son of Jamali; from the tribe of Asher, Sethur son of Michael; from the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi son of Vophsi; from the tribe of Gad, Guel son of Maki. These 12 went on to spy on the promised land based on the instructions of Moses to find out about the people living there, the type of towns they had, and the type of soil there. After exploring the length and breadth of the land, they came back with their reports based on what they had seen. They came back with a report stating how good the land was, how fertile it was, and how it produced good fruit, but they had a problem that they observed. They had noticed that the people living in the land were powerful, and they had strong and fortified cities, and the worst part was that the descendants of Anak were living there. However, Caleb and Joshua were of another opinion. They believed they could take the land in spite of the strength of the people who lived there. They believed in the ability of God to give them the land He had promised rather than the strength of the people living in the land. The other spies spread a bad report about the land they spied on among the Israelites when they were staying. This they mentioned. Numbers chapter 13 verses 32 to 33 says, "And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, 'The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them.'" This was where the descendants of Anak were first mentioned in the Bible. So, who were the descendants of Anak? The spies recorded that they were descendants of the Nephilim, and were huge, so much so that they looked like grasshoppers in their own eyes. This means that the descendants of Anak were giants, and they were connected to the ancestry of the Nephilim. The Nephilim were first mentioned in Genesis chapter 6. At this time, humans were multiplying on the earth, and the women were beautiful. The sons of God noticed this and married some of the women. Some believed that these sons of God were actually fallen angels. The children that were born from the marriage of the human women and the sons of God were the Nephilim. They were not different from other humans. They were heroes and people who did great things. The Nephilim were also stated to be giants, which meant they also looked different from normal human beings. In that same chapter, the Bible records that God was grieved that He had made man, and He decided to wipe out the earth, leaving only a remnant, which was Noah and his family along with the animals that entered the ark with him. This means that the Nephilim at that time must have also died. This brings the question of how were the descendants of Anak descendants of the Nephilim wiped out during the Great Flood? This meant that the same event that happened that led to the existence of the first set of Nephilim probably happened again. The sons of God married daughters of men and gave birth to children who were different from the rest of humanity. These Nephilim were the forefathers of the descendants of Anak, and that explained why they were giants. Their height scared the spies into believing that they could not overcome them, and for this reason, all that generation of Israelites except Joshua and Caleb, who believed they could take over the land by the strength of God, died without entering the promised land. The children of Israel later defeated these descendants of Anak, not just because of their physical strength, but because God backed them up. At the time when the Nephilim existed before the flood, the sin of humanity was so great that God was grieved that He made man. They were also conquered by the people of Israel when Joshua led Israel. However, the descendants of Anak were not all gone even after that. There was still an important giant in Bible history that most of us knew of, and his name was Goliath. In Joshua chapter 11 verses 21 to 22. At that time Joshua went and destroyed the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debir, and Anab, from all the hill country of Judah, and from all the hill country of Israel. Joshua totally destroyed them and their towns. No Anakites were left in Israelite territory, only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. Joshua destroyed all the descendants of Anak within Israel's territory, however some remained in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. Goliath was from Gath and was a giant. The Bible records that he was over 9 feet tall. These were defining features of descendants of Anak. Like every other descendant of Anak, Goliath was in rebellion against God. He taunted the army of Israel and challenged them. He was so proud, and for days he kept challenging the army of Israel. No one in the army was brave enough to challenge him, even Saul the king and one of the tallest men in Israel. It was at this time that David was visiting the army. His father had sent him to bring food to his brothers. He was right there in time to hear Goliath boast and challenge Israel's army, and so he decided to do something about it. He asked questions about Goliath and the reward for defeating you. David was not the tallest Israelite and did not have military experience. And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. However, David did not go in his own strength. If he did, he would have failed, because descendants of Anak had advantages over normal humans. He was way taller and stronger than David could imagine. David replied to Goliath and said in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 45 to 47, "You come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. Today I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel." David placed his full confidence in God. He was not dressed like Goliath, who was fully kitted in his armor, and he did not fight him with a sword. Instead, David used stones and a slingshot. As soon as Goliath drew closer to him, David ran to meet him. The people watching the battle must have been really startled seeing such a small person running towards a giant, especially when the small person had no physical advantage of an armor, unlike the giant. But God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. David slung a stone at Goliath, which hit him in the head. Goliath fell, and David took his sword and cut off the head of Goliath. This was how David defeated Goliath, and when the Philistines saw their hero was dead, they ran away, and this was how the Israelites had victory over their enemy. The descendants of Anak were smart and great, and they were giants. They had advantages in every way, as we can see in the life of Goliath, but even with that, David showed that they could be defeated if we rely solely on God's strength. David defeated Goliath, and Joshua overthrew the Anakites in their land. The descendants of Anak stood against God's will and were in rebellion to God, and so they were destroyed over and over again. David overcame Goliath by the power of God, and Joshua defeated the Anakites by the power of God. The descendants of Anak had every advantage over other humans, but because their very existence was in rebellion to God's order of creation, they were wiped off the face of the earth. Now we no longer have giants that we can trace to be descendants of Anak, but there have been so many discoveries that point to the fact that giants, the descendants of Anak, once lived on earth. Now we have humans who are born of normal human relationships rather than a union in rebellion to God's order. Have you learned something new from this video? please let us know by sharing in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to this YouTube channel.